We're going to take a quick look at Crochet Provisional Cast On. This is my favourite method of doing it, and this cast on should be used when you definitely want live loops later. So we start with a slipknot in our provisional yarn. So this yarn is not going to be part of the project, and we pop it on the crochet hook. Then you take the knitting needle onto which you wish to place your stitches and put it in front of the provisional yarn. If you can hold the tail of the provisional yarn along with the knitting needle, it will stabilize things for you and stop your stitches flying off the end of the needle. So I've got a loose slip knot on this right hand side on the crochet hook, the tail held together with the knitting needle, and the yarn trailing behind the back of the needle. Now I'm going to reach over with my crochet hook and grab hold of that yarn, and I'm pulling a new crochet chain through. Then I flip my yarn back behind the knitting needle, and I'm trying to keep some kind of tension on this yarn because that makes the pulling through the new loop a lot easier to control. So each time I flip the yarn back behind the needle, reach over with the crochet hook, hook it through, flip the yarn. This is far easier to do, especially when you're practicing on a rigid needle. When you come to do this on a circular, the circular tends to squirm around. But a rigid needle, if you rest the opposite end against you, the rigid needle will help and act like a third pair of hands. And you keep on making stitches until you have sufficient for your needs, or even a few extra. And then I like to finish with a little unravel me from this end pigtail. This is just an indicator that this is the end that's going to unravel. So now I'm going to chop off my provisional yarn, and I'm going to elongate my last loop, and I'm not going to give it a big pull because this is the end we're going to need to undo later. And there on my needle I have 10 provisional stitches. If I only wanted 8, I can push the extra ones off into the pigtail. So if you prefer, you can do all your chains onto the needle and then just dump them off at the far end. So I have 8 provisional stitches, and that's what my chain looks like underneath the needle. Here is a 10 stitch provisional edge, just like the one we just made. And if we turn it over, before we even release the cousins, we can see them. They are the little main coloured white pearl bumps that you can see. And there will always be one less cousin than there were original direction stitches. So we've got 10 on the needle. Now let's count the cousins. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you will only ever on flat knitting get one less cousin than you had original direction stitches. There will be a little twist at the end of the row, which I affectionately call the Tasmanian twist, but I very rarely use that. That can be let go and not worried about. So the whole purpose of a provisional edge is to be able to release the stitches at the beginning when you wish to, and then you can apply an edge to them, you can knit downwards, you can add a facing, you can do whatever you normally do with live stitches. And I'm now going to unravel my chain, and this is how easily the crochet provisional edge should come out. It should just come popping right out. And these stitches that are being released, that look identical to normal stitches, are what I call the Australian cousins, because they were down under. And there are all the cousins, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And here is the Tasmanian twist at the end of the row. If we pull out the slip knot, we can just pull the yarn through that. And that is simply where the yarn went up from row 1 to row 2. And I don't tend to bother with it, but you can use it as an additional stitch if you wish, but it sticks out on one side, whereas the 9 stitches are symmetrically half a stitch in from the original 10. So those are your live loops, and those can be picked up and used in any way you wish.